Welcome to Happiest Places Home, the interior design channel. If you're into interior design, you'll love it here. I found some really exciting dupes at Amazon for brand new Pottery Barn products, plus one bestseller that I really love, but I actually love my dupe even better. So why don't we jump into these dupes, and at the end, we'll have a very brief design lesson, and I'm going to show you a few things that I bought this week from Amazon for my home. This one's a Pottery Barn bestseller. It's the Demetria hand-knotted rug, and this is inspired by a vintage turkey look. It has these very large-scale medallions, and it's very striking. Now, this hasn't been out for very long. It's, I would say, 6 months. It's a bestseller for a good reason. It's very striking in a room. So you can see that by their images. But what happened was I found a dupe that I actually do like even better, and that's a miracle because I love that rug. This is the Medina Vintage Area Rug from Amazon, and it has a 30% off coupon right now, and it ends up being $200 compared to the Pottery Barn's $1,700. I want to talk about this rug for a minute. I won't do this with all of the items, but I do think that it's something that is a bit of a statement piece, and it's one of those things that I think if you did have this in a room, it does take over a little bit, but in the best way. So I think it would be a bit impressive to your own eye and to your guests. And it's just looks like suddenly you have a very well put together room, I would think. I also might want to talk about some decorating advice at the end of the video regarding this and a pillow that's coming up. This is Pottery Barn's brand new lamp, the Clift. It's made of glass and iron, and it's very simplistic, okay? But there's visual interest because of the contrast of the shine on the glass and then the texture on the lampshade with that linen. And anytime you use that sandy sort of color on something simple, you do have a very California coastal kind of look. Now, this glass has a seated, very subtle, but a seated look, and it has some swirls in it. So that will pick up really beautiful effects from the light bulb too. It happens to be $449, which is quite high. So I found a great dupe from Fanciful. It's a glass lamp that is 24 inches high, so it's a little shorter, but it's also much less. It's $60, and that's a wonderful price for such a good brand. There were other options, but none of them had quite the right shape, and they also were higher priced. So I think you're getting a very subtle nod to coastal with this sort of look. And you can fill these with items. I just never seem to do that. In fact, I probably wouldn't do it unless it was for a holiday decoration temporarily. My dupe lamp actually would look gorgeous in this room, wouldn't it? We're going to be talking about that quilt. But I did want to say, I like this setup. Obviously, you would put art and drapery, the simplistic nature of it makes it feel very serene, and the colors. So I selected this quilt. There are a lot of colorful, floral, patterned quilts and duvets that I could cover, and I will. But I selected this one because there's been a bit of a neutral trend at Pottery Barn with furniture, and I thought if you maybe selected some of my dupes on that, you might also like this. But it has an unusual pattern. I actually don't love the unusual look of the pattern. I mostly like the idea that it's washed linen, which can be very soft eventually. And it is filled with polyester though. But take a look at a dupe that I found. I like the pattern on this better. It's just more uniform. and I like the color. It's very similar. Mine is 100% cotton, and it comes with 2 shams, and it's so much less. The queen is $67.99 and the king is $74.99. So I think that this would be a much better deal, and you're getting that same easy vacation-y feeling, but also having that cozy feel too, I think. Pottery Barn's new throw pillow is the green with the florals that you're looking at, and you'll see it in some rooms here. It's called the Audrina, and it's $99.50 for the pillow cover. This is truly embroidered, and it's very fanciful and busy. But I think it's the green that is drawing my eye in, because there's a lot of green going on lately. But I found one that I would say is maybe more 70s looking, but also very captivating. It is a pack of 2 pillow covers. They're 20 by 20 designer size, and it's the batik design. So these are not truly embroidered. It's done with that batik technique, which is very interesting one, and I think you would appreciate these up close as well. I know you're seeing them from a tad of a distance, but the price is just fantastic compared to the Pottery Barn. They do only come in 2s, but it's $9.99 technically per pillow cover. And you may think, ooh, chartreuse almost, and maybe that's not to your liking, but I do feel these look designer and super interesting. Now, at the end of the video, though, I'm going to use these, like I said earlier, also the rug, and talk to you about a design technique that's used by most interior designers. And if you don't know about it, it might help. Pottery Barn has put out so many different black taper holders, and these are the brand new ones. They have more of an extended grasp on the candle, and you're meant to use those with the very tall tapers, even though they are so tall. The tallest one in the group being 20 inches high. So these are very like an attention grabber in the room, the showstopper. Also, just a slight bit of black in a design can sometimes refocus the whole picture of the room, and they'll grab your attention a little more, and maybe some rooms need that. If there's a lot of neutral going on, or a lot of things that are similar shapes, a lot of things that are a similar color, even if it's not neutral, a little slice of black in the picture can kind of break things up and just change the whole appearance, and that can be a very good thing. Well, it will be much easier to try that out and sample it at a group of candles that are only $20 from Amazon. I think the Pottery Barn option is more elegant because of that extended holder for the taper candle holder at the top, but these do have the exact same feel and flavor at the same time, and it would be really fun to place these in different areas of the house. You don't have to put them all together. Maybe have them hug a picture frame here and a picture frame there, maybe on a console, maybe on your dresser and the coffee table, and you can space them around, and it also can kind of pull your whole look together. In last week's video, I covered the Huntington collection at Pottery Barn by way of showing you their sunbed, and then a really good dupe for that, which I own. And I know some of you bought that. Great idea, you're gonna love it. Now, if you did, or maybe you don't need the sunbed, but you would rather have a swivel chair, this one would coordinate with that so beautifully. Now, this is the Cheetah outdoor swivel chair, and it's $329, so much less than the alternative at Pottery Barn. This is supposed to be an easy swivel. It also is water resistant in terms of the foundation and of the cushions, and they are supposed to be easy to clean. This is Pottery Barn's new quilt called the Sutton, and it's far removed from a lot of the other things that you've probably seen from their quilts, but they are introducing black as an accent color in a lot of collections right now, suddenly. So I thought I would show you this early on in case it is a popular product. But I also found a dupe for it that is so much more affordable, but I think it is a little more comfy looking. I feel like with the extra detailing that they use, there's some fringe on the Pottery Barn version. This one just has that texture look, but it's going to be smoother and more comfortable. And the queen is $31.19 and the king is $33.59. And I have another option for you, as a matter of fact. This is a fun gathering of pieces because it's 5 of them for $104 and change. So you're getting a comforter, not a quilt, but it does have that similar look. That's why I selected this. I think it's more subtle than the others, but you're also getting all of those pillows that you're looking at there. So it's such an easy way to throw together a styled bed and not have to think about it. I have company coming this weekend, and isn't that always the push that makes you buy a few things to spruce up your house, whether it's the living area they're in or their guest room? So I just picked up some very useful everyday things, so I thought I might share in case you thought that these might be a good idea for you. One of them is a dupe for something Pottery Barn. So it's 2 tissue boxes. One of them's ultra modern, so I don't know if that will be your taste. Let me know. But first, let's talk about this one. This one is a dupe for, well, what you're looking at is the Monica Lullier tissue box cover, which is marble at Pottery Barn. It's really pretty, very basic, you know. I just didn't want to pay for a marble tissue box cover, plus I wanted a lightweight one. So I found this one on Amazon for $19.99, and it looks like it's marble, but it's really acrylic. And I feel that it will be very easy to clean as well. You know how tissue boxes get a little dust all over them? This probably will, and I'll feel better about cleaning it constantly than I would about a marble one. I selected the next tissue box because it reminded me of something that would come from CB2. It looks sculptural, and I like that. So, and I do have some places that I think this would work well with tables that are modern. So let me show you how this one works because it's very simple, but you do have to use a tissue box and only use half of the tissues if it's going to work right. So I just pulled them out of the side of that box and then split them in half and then plopped them in there. And it was very simple. And I think it looks great. It might be a little too modern for most people that love Pottery Barn, but I thought I would show it to you because I really did buy it and you might find it interesting. This is $19.81. It also comes in a brighter white. This is the pearl. A viewer asked me for advice on tailoring a bed that only has a headboard. And you could also use this if you have a complete bed, but you're just seeing too much of what's under it. I don't think people need a bed skirt. But if you do want it to look tailored when you only have the headboard, which I do right now, I think that this is a way to do that. They have the one that I purchased, which is the one you're looking at. This is not in my own home. I didn't have time to wash it and iron it before making this video. But as you can see, it arrived this week. It comes in a beige, a gray, a black, and the white. So I think that would probably cover most of the bases unless you have navy bedding, but maybe you would want the white or the ivory with that. Anyway, it is $19.99 for a king. It's less money for a California king, $14.99, and it's $14 for a queen. They do have a twin size, and I'm sorry, I don't remember how much that one was. But all of this is linked. Everything in the video, linked. I thought this was a good video to talk about a designer trick that is very well known in the design community, and a lot of you are designers, so you probably already know this trick. But if you do, stick around because I'm going to put it into action and you can just see what came out of these two pillows. Let's reflect back to these pillows, which are a dupe for a new Pottery Barn pillow. And I bet a lot of you think this is horrid. Like, what is this pattern? And some of you may think it's super interesting, but it is such an unusual combination of colors that I thought it was the perfect piece to talk to you about an interior designer trick. If a piece of fabric or a painting or a vase has a combination of colors that maybe are unique or just that you like them, maybe they're very basic, you can take the colors found on this piece that you know is going in your home, and you can create an entire palette around it. And we're going to do that together really quickly with these pillows, and then you'll see the end result. Here's how I approach this. The main color in this pillow is the chartreuse, and you have to think about where you want to use the prominent color first. And for me, I think that these would be pretty wall colors or a pretty sofa or chairs, but I think it would make the most sense to use that color with drapery and stems because they're naturally that way. Drapery in this color looks surprisingly great, and my grandmother had it at her home, so that may be one of the reasons why whenever I see it, I think that is very artsy and stylish. If the prominent color isn't going to be your paint color, then it's a good idea to get started figuring out which one will be the paint color. And I have a color matcher, and you don't need one of those. You'll be able to have the item with you maybe in the store or as you shop online. But since I didn't, I looked at the leaves that have a brown pattern on them next to the stem, next to the branches, and there is a taupe. Maybe you might call it more of a beige because it doesn't have as much pink in it, but I'm going to use that color for the paint and for the sofa. Those are two very big areas, and you may think that that is playing it safe, but when you see everything else, you won't think that. I just mentioned the branches, so let's go there. I think with that color, it's such a great opportunity to incorporate a dark wood, like a walnut, maybe a mahogany. I think I ended up just doing walnut. And then I thought that would be great on a picture frame. I didn't want to introduce gold into this or silver. In the flowers, there is a very dark red, and then there's a lighter peach, and then of course the mint. But we'll talk about the others. Let's start with the red. I think that this would be a good opportunity to incorporate a vase that's dark red or a bowl. It definitely should go in an art subject because that's one of the easiest ways to incorporate red, similar to the way it's done in the embroidery here, or it's not embroidery, sorry, the pattern here. The peachy color, you could say it's a light coral, is the outer limits of some of the flowers and in the middle of some of them. This is a wild combination of colors, as we stated from the beginning. So this is going to be a fun exercise. Now, I definitely thought the peach/coral should go in the art subject next to the red, just like it is in the pillow, because they look good together. And then I thought maybe a throw blanket would be a good way to add that color. And then you can take it out more easily if you don't love it. The strange piece of this puzzle is the use of mint with these other colors. It's really different, and that's what gave me the idea to do this. So I thought adding a coffee table book was my first thought, and there's one that I wanted to, but I couldn't get a photo of it that made sense for this. So I did a different one. And then I thought maybe I could find a jade sculpture and I didn't end up finding one that I liked enough to use in this. So you'll see how we added the mint now. All of the pieces in the room will be in my description box, so you don't have to keep track of what's from where, but by the way, they're all from Amazon. Except for the sofa. So I started with the foundations, and that's the paint color and the sofa. That sofa is from Pottery Barn. The Josie sofa, which is a very traditional look. And then the paint is called Kilim from Sherwin-Williams. I do have a more understated version of this design that I'll show you after, but then I also have an even more outlandish version. But let's start with the one that I came up with first, and that was adding, so the peach lumbar and the peach throw blanket I thought were a great way to add in that peach. I would like a paler version of this color, but I bought everything on Amazon. I didn't buy it. I selected everything on Amazon. So I thought that was what I could find in terms of that color. And then I used the same lamps that we talked about already in this video, thinking they didn't need to take away from the design or take it over. They're just kind of a background piece because there's so much to look at here. So I did include the wood in the color that's on the pillows. That color is also found in the painting. Now, these tables are different styles, and that's okay if it can look like it's in harmony. And I couldn't find another coffee table that I liked. I would have liked to be honest, but I decided to go with this one because I liked it the most. I kind of wanted a more traditional one, but with clean lines, and I didn't find one that I liked. So that is where we incorporate the wood. What I would have liked to have done is found a piece of art that has a darker wood frame. So I ended up showing you what it looks like with that. But let's go back to the way that it's actually available on Amazon. Speaking of that piece of art, it has a variety of the colors that are in the pillow. And I like that it did have so much brown to kind of blend the woods. And it looks better with the brown frame. And then the drapery was not that hard to find, but in reality, the pair of drapes that I found, or the panel, is a little brighter than it is in my design. I muted the color manually just because I thought it was too bright, but I'll still link the drapes that I found. And then I think the red, that was a tough choice, but I thought using this ginger jar with the lid was a great way of doing it. I found some other things that were more garish, maybe, and I decided to not use them. But check out how this room looks with red lamps as well. And I think it looks a little more designer to me, but I thought it just might have been too much for the public. I did include the mint books and found some. There was another one that I wanted, and I'm going to link it if I can. It's just that or I can link it, but the photo just wasn't working. And then I incorporated a very natural seagrass tray, which in many ways does not go with this design, but I did need something to have a little foundation for some of those pieces on the coffee table. And we've talked about this recently. You don't want things to just be sitting there next to each other and not have any lift or gathering. And a tray is a great way to gather things and make it make sense. So I did use that, and I did it as an example of just mixing your good old eclectic mix. And then I love a white orchid, and I would have liked to do more florals, maybe even red, but probably not. But it's too matchy-matchy with the bouquet of flowers that is in the art, and it just would have been too much with the flowers, almost like a design mistake. So I did the orchid. And the rug that I used is the rug that we spoke about in my video that I presented as a dupe for the Pottery Barn rug. You'll remember from earlier. And the colors don't really gel with this design. Some of them do, but I would have maybe picked something that had a little more green or a little more peach or just more beige and neutral. However, I wanted to show you that this rug seems like it could work anywhere. So it looks fine, doesn't it? What do you think? Let me know in the comments, but don't be mean. I added 2 chairs to make this a little more realistic, but I did choose a more outlandish pattern just to keep things super interesting. And I chose the Thea Ikat Parchment chair. So with that fabric, it's $8.99 apparently. However, on the website, I couldn't find that fabric to select. So I believe that's the price. That's what it's listed with other fabric that has parchment in the name. But take a look at how these add some interest to the design and of course more comfort and seating. This is the same exact exercise, but just having a little less color in the palette. And I did that by incorporating a print. It does have the white mat, which is taking up a lot of the visual space there. I like that it still has the wood frame. That one really does come with a wood frame. And then I took out the peach, I took out the red. So I added bolster pillows to complement our original pillows. And I took out the red urn, I took out the book and added more neutral books. And you can see that it doesn't look as wild and exciting, but it might look a little more like a normal living room. Oh, and those lamps are the Clift lamps that I showed you earlier. They also come in a sagey green glass, so that's what I used to kind of blend everything. Let's get crazy now and add in some more red. So these lamps I think look very polished and fun in this design, and having pinpoints of the red on the painting, on the lamps, and on that ginger jar it spreads out the visual interest, and that is something that I think makes this look nice. What you would think if you saw this room is, wow, this is something that's very unusual. I've never seen anything like this before. And that's the effect that you can get from starting out with a fabric or a painting that has a variety of colors that somehow work in that fabric or painting and could also work in a room for you. All of the fun pieces from this tips and tricks section will be in the description box. Also, the Pottery Barn originals and the dupes. Well, this was a little bit different than my usual videos with the 2 things at the end. I'd love to know what you think in the comment section. And my videos launch every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So I hope to see you on the next one.